Hey, it's Guido coming at you with a review for the T-34-3 Chinese Tier 8 Premium Tank, medium, with preferential matchmaking. So I've got three of these same kind of preferential Tier 8 mediums. Got the Super, the T-34-3, and the Type 59. So we'll take a look, compare and contrast. I'm not going to compare it to any other Tier 8 mediums because they don't have preferential matchmaking. And that's pretty important in the case of these three tanks because in general their guns are subpar as compared to the other Tier 8 mediums. So we will just compare those. You take a look at what I've got here. I am running the enhanced gun laying drive for setup. I have a large caliber tank rammer and I've got the vert stab. You could replace the GLD for vents if you wanted to improve across the board all of your crew instead of just improving the aiming speed. A lot of people will do that. I prefer the GLD. As far as ammo goes, I only carry 4 heat, 4 HE, and 32 AP. HE is actually somewhat effective on this tank with the 122, especially against Tier 6s and Tier 7s and Arty and such. For the rest of the service here, I am running small repair kit, small first aid, and an automatic fire extinguisher. You could replace those two with larges, obviously, if you've got a bunch stacked up or as required. You could run food in this as well, but I'm not really sure which one of these three I would give up. It does tend to light on fire. You do get things damaged quite a bit, and say you lose a gunner, that terrible gun handling gets even worse. So I have stuck with this and avoided putting the food on there. You could obviously run a lot more gold. You can realize there that the gold is running you 5,600, whereas if you come over to the Super Pershing, you'll notice that it, and I won't show you, but the Type 59 are at 4,400. So the heat for the T-34-3 is quite expensive, and in addition to that, it is heat, which does really well against thick armor that's flat, but does very poorly against angles, and tracks will eat it. Let's take a look at a comparison here. So I've got the 34-3 flanked by the Super and the Type 59. Starting from the top, you can see right away the advantage of the T-34-3 is that big gun. It does a lot of damage. The pen on all of them is relatively indifferent. The Super just got a buff, so it's actually pretty nice. But you're running the 175 pen with the T-34-3 and the 122, which is pretty bad. Rate of fire, you can see, very slow. It has a long reload, 12.8. The other two are much faster. Turrets are very fast on the two Chinese tanks. The Super Pershing is known for a pretty slow moving turret. Here's another big one where the 34-3 loses out. The depression is -5. It feels like 0, I'll tell you that much. It loses out to both the Type 59 and especially to the Super, which has great depression. It's workable, but you will realize that you need to be careful when you're running the 34-3. You're not going to be able to use a lot of hold down positions that require elevation to work. Aiming time. You have a big gun, it does 390 average, but it takes a long time to aim. And in addition to that, if you look at the stat right below it, the dispersion is awful. So you've got a large dispersion with a long time to aim, and you can tell that right away. This thing is not a very good medium to long range sniper. Those shots can be made, but it really needs to get up close to its work. And when we get into a couple of the replay analysis that I'll do after this to show you how to play it, you'll notice that that is definitely a factor. Interestingly, the average damage per minute is pretty similar to all three of them. No big deal, although missing with the 34-3 or not penning hurts a lot more than the others because you just have a lot longer to reload. Hit points, fairly comparable. Super's got 200 more. Hit points are not the strong suit of mediums. The whole armor is kind of interesting. I did not actually realize this, but the 34-3 is slightly worse than the Type 59. And then if you look at the turret, slightly worse on the turret as well, although that rounded turret is still pretty troll and will bounce most Tier 8 stuff, most of the lower tier stuff, but when you're looking at the big TDs or Tier 9s, they will tend to go through your turret as well. For the mobility, I would say neither the 34-3 or the 59 are the fastest tanks out there, but they are fairly mobile. I would call it agile because they can kind of spin around in the hover med mode. As RU clones, they do well with that, but their top speed and acceleration is not amazing. The Super Pershing is the Super Pershing. It's a brick sliding along on concrete. The rest of these numbers, no big deal. Top speed, pretty good again for the 34-3 and the 59, but you're not going to get to that top speed very quickly. Traverse, that's part of that mobility or agility, where the hull will spin quite fast for the 34-3 and the 59, and that helps in close-in fighting quite a bit. When you're fighting the 34-3, you're going to run it more as a pocket heavy, so that means you're going to be in and amongst the other heavies, and it is nice that when you do use your slightly superior mobility to heavies that you can also spin the hull as required very quickly to help troll bounce shots or at least get your front towards them. Concealment's not any of these tanks really strong suit. They're not really sniper hiding tanks, although the two Chinese tanks do okay with that, and the view range is more or less indifferent, pretty standard for a tier 8 medium. And that is the comparison of all those tanks. I've shown you my setup, I've shown you my loadout, so let's go ahead and show you how to fight the T-34-3 as a pocket heavy kind of tank. Okay, here's the first example of two for gameplay with the T-34-3, and we're going to discuss during this replay the idea of it being a pocket heavy, which is to say its armament allows it to act like a heavy even though it is a medium, although you do have to be careful. In this example, I have loaded into Arctic region. Got a pretty good team, so that does take into account how this game goes down, but you can see that we are outnumbered heavy-wise in what is a fairly heavy-centric area where the battle typically takes place, or at least part of the most important battle down here in the southeast. So right away when I loaded in on this game, I realized I needed to go down there if we were going to avoid getting swept in the southeast and then flanked. We do have quite a few TDs, so that can turn the tide. If they do sweep through this area and get to this corner, TDs hiding in this area back here can have a field day on them if they're dumb enough to push out into the open. But I would like to avoid the battle getting to that point. I want to win down here, or at least slow them down enough that our tanks up in the north can do good work. So because I am in the T-34-3 and playing it as a pocket heavy, and it does excel in that role, that's why I'm headed down here to the southeast. So one thing nice about mediums, especially a medium like this one, acting as a heavy in this case, is its speed allows me to get down there more than likely without taking a shot in the side, whereas some of the slower heavies will have a hard time getting down to the bottom of this ramp. Now I'm looking that way just in case a fast guy gets there. My turret's pointed towards him, and if he happens to hit me in the turret, that's my best armor profile against him. If I go with my turret going forward, he may slap me in the side of the turret. I'm going to come right to this corner. And you can end up surprising people here because you're fast and they don't really expect a medium to be there. Just like that guy. Got a little bit surprised. And this is what I expected. We're going to end up with a lot of their heavies. They're supers here, so he acts as a bit of a heavy, so that's kind of a fourth heavy for them. And to a large extent, he plays a similar role to my tank as a pocket heavy. He just doesn't have the fear factor on the gun of the 390. So I'm going to sit there. I end up trying to get to his top hatch, but that's going to be a low percentage shot, and I end up hitting his armor. The 304 is paying attention to me, and now I'm looking at what we've got. We've got quite a few of them stacked up. They are not pushing us hard down below, so I'm going to go ahead and let that super sit there for a moment. 304, you can see, tries to shoot in there. And I'm going to come up top here and start working on their heavies. You can see the depression's a bit of a problem. I really have to come up and expose myself to get that shot. And oh, by the way, shooting heat into tracks is going to be a predictable result. They've turned around to the mill, so I'm going to come in here and start working on these guys. I actually shoot the IS to kill him. What I wish I had done was shoot the super in the back, because one more shot on him, we'd have been able to deal with him a little bit easier. It looks like the Emil is out of shot, so he's just trying to survive, and I would really like him to live. I wish he'd have just pushed right past that super and come back behind me. I don't know if he's trying to block the super, but you can see that we got a lot of aggro. They've noticed us down here, and they've decided that it's time to come punish us for our temerity. And I'm just going to back up here. It looks like the Emil's in big trouble. You can see that it is a long reload, so that is something you've got to take into account when dealing with this tank. The pop out and shoot peek-a-boom that a medium could do down here, say a type or a tier 8 medium, is somewhat limited in the case of the T-34-3. Now I've got an ONI that's backed me up, and you can see that I'm working the pocket heavy roll here. We're not doing so great. Unfortunately, the guys in the north aren't doing much. We got quite a few campers kind of sitting back there. It would have been really nice if that ONI back there on about K5 or 6 would have come our way. You can see I'm dealing with depression there, hard to deal with. Coming up there to take out that little TD. So we'll pop up here, get his attention. KV2 is kind of looking at me, and I've got the ONI down below. So working like a heavy, down on the heavy area, punishing people with that great big 390 damage. Now I'm just going to come around. I ended up taking a hit there. That was a little bit of a no respect move, but I want to get around. I feel like we've got to get rid of this super. He ends up punishing me quite a bit, unfortunately. And nice job moving his armor right in front of me. I think you saw I was trying to get to his cheek. KV5's not paying attention, so I'm going to be able to punish him, and then just look at how long I have to wait for that reload. So the flanking move, flanking capability of this tank, as compared to other mediums, is somewhat limited because it takes so long to reload. You know, a type would have put 2 shots into that guy by then. Of course, it does a little bit less damage, doesn't it? So now we have at least neutralized, if not one, down here in the southeast. They have pushed through in the middle. There's an argument to be made that had I been up in the middle or the north, they wouldn't have got that far. But had I not been down here, the southeast would have lost very quickly. So I'm going to get to him. And now the T-32 comes right at me, as he probably should. I make a bit of a mistake here. You can see that the long reload is an issue once again with this tank. I would have liked to have been there waiting to hit him, but I just didn't quite reload in time, and he just comes around, snaps a shot off, and pins me. Maybe had I tucked up a little bit more, wait till his smoke, up into that little section right there and forced him to come around the corner some more, I probably would have been reloaded in time and maybe got my shot off first, although at 28%, I'm not sure I would have actually killed him. Would have been close. Maybe a high roll would have taken him out. This ends up being a win for us, so you can see that the T-34-3 can work as the pocket heavy roll, going to where the heavies are, provided you're careful. Now that team was not particularly good, but I'm just trying to show you an example of one of the ways that that tank can be played. You can flank with it, but again, you have to be always cognizant of the long reload. So the next one we'll take a look at is an ace game in the T-34-3, give you a little bit more example of gameplay. Okay, here's our second example, T-34-3 review and gameplay. I am on Redshire here, loaded in, fairly even as far as the skill level goes with the players, but you'll note that they've got a bunch more heavies. Lots of TDs as well on each side for a bunch of ridge camping. So I'm going to play this initially as a pocket heavy. I'm headed over here to the east side where the critical battle typically takes place. I have a decent number of tanks coming with me, but they're all relatively low tier. And I'm going to come up here, and because the medium, in this case the 34-3, has pretty good mobility, I'm able to get here first and be fairly confident that I'll be the first one to get to this point. So I can get around this corner, and I'm just waiting for somebody to come blundering up over this hill and get a shot on them. I've loaded heat right away because I figure I'm probably going to be facing some pretty good armor coming at me. One of those top 5 heavies is probably the first thing that's going to show up here. So you'll see me run this as a pocket heavy, and then I will swing to a more traditional medium roll, which obviously as a medium the 34-3 can do. This guy's going to actually butter through my upper plate. If you can believe it, goes right through it at that angle. Okay, so I've got some helpers. Turns out a lot of my team came this way. That's very good for us. Heat is made for that kind of flat plate heavy armor. Goes right through it. I've got an OHO there as well. Again, you'll note that the long reload time. So while I've got a lot of alpha, I have a long time to reload. The other thing you'll obviously note is there are no arty in this game, so I have a little better time as far as sneaking around this corner. You can get thumped on this corner by arty if you're not careful. In addition, we've forced these guys to fight back behind, and I'll butter through with another shot. Nice job taking out the OHO. And now there's just 2 of them. And it looks like they only committed 3 heavies over here. And you'll find out that a considerable number of them are on the west side there. So that's to our advantage. Had they pushed all their heavies this way, more than likely they'd have beat our forces here. So bad positioning on their part. That is quite a lucky shot. I hit right on that flat plate. It just happened to go there. I was aiming for the turret, but I'm very lucky it didn't either go into his mantlet or off to the left. So we're going to clean these guys up. Working the T-34 as a pocket heavy. Now I'm swinging to the medium roll because I'm noticing that there's nobody here. There's a lot of guys in the middle, and I'm starting to see more and more of the enemy over on the west side. You'll note that the majority of my team that just won here are all pushing that way. Of course, the danger is to our captain in the middle, so I'm going to now work as a medium and start working back towards the flank, back towards the middle, and sort out whatever of their forces that are going to come out and try to get on our cap. We are winning at this point, which is good. Got a Tu-150 coming across the middle using the mobility of the T-34-3. There is a RHM. Now, the accuracy, you can see how long it takes to aim in. It's going to take quite a while to reload. I'm backing up. I'll use the top of that building right there to cover me from return fire from the RHM. So a little bit of RNG working for me right now, right there. You can see how big the dispersion circle is on this thing. Take a look at those two. And I don't want to hang out on this ridge too long because the depression's not great. So I'm actually going to tuck up underneath, and then I have an IS-3 that pushes in. And that's problematic for me. I'm out of heat. I've only got 175 pin, and his front armor's pointing right at me, and that goes right into that big old turret. Heavily armored turret. I'm down some hit points. He's 100%, so I'm not really feeling like I want to go blitzing out there in front of him. He'll butter through even with AP rounds. But I do have my friends finally working through a big cloud of them coming through about G6. So I'm going to wait for a little bit of reinforcement. I can see that T-150 is headed for the cap, but I'm fairly certain unless he goes pretty far to the east, he's not going to have any shots on my side. But I am watching for him. There's the IS-3. Who is shooting at my friend, so I'm going to go ahead and take a shot on him, and there's that 150. So I'm in a little bit of a pickle here. Got some guys all around me. I'm hoping that my friends can work on this IS-3 a little bit. Checking 6. What is that T-150 doing? I think he's either having a hard time getting a shot on me or potentially another shot into the side of the IS-3. He's not even bothering, potentially. So now using mobility, it is a medium. Getting around this IS-3. Not quite reloaded, so hopefully he was ammo racked or something, or it was just taking him a while, and I'm able to beat him with a little bit of circling. So yep, it's a pocket heavy, but that mobility then, when you swing to more of a traditional medium roll, should help you out quite a bit. I am aware of this little rise in the terrain here, so now I'm going to use the turret of the 34-3, and we're going to start doing some saving of the cap. It is unfortunate that I did not shoot the T-150. Do not ask me why. I decided to shoot the KV-4 in the face on the turret, but that was never going to work, was it? Fortunately, one of my teammates had my back and fixed my mistake. Now I'm going to switch to HE. So this is something I talked about a little bit. HE is effective in the 122. So that big boomstick, a little bit of HE, you can actually do some decent work right there. And I'm just looking for resets and whittling down a KV-4 that's pointing right at me. Now I've got some friends and we're working on him from 2 sides. Come around here. I probably should have tried to track him, but again, the depression got in my way a little bit. That shot goes with HE, goes right into his mantlet and doesn't do any damage but a critical. Hopefully I damage his gun or kill a crew member or something, so I'll go ahead and be a little more careful, put another shot in there with HE. Now I'm out of HE going to AP. So at this point I need to work around his side, paying attention to what those guys are doing, and they end up taking him out. So up to 3,400 damage, started as a pocket heavy, worked to the flank, moved back to the cap to help save cap, and now it is cleanup time. And I'll do more of, again, the traditional medium kind of thing of spotting guys and cleaning up using my maneuverability. Now that IS-2 was not looking at me. He swings his turret on a reload. He's probably trying to zoom in. So that's why I went ahead and just let mine zoom in a little bit. Now here's some long range action with the T-34-3 122. And this level of a shot, or that range of a shot, I'm going to let that thing zoom in as much as possible before I take that shot. And everything groups around the center, so realize even the big derpy guns are going to tend towards hitting the middle. So while those shots aren't high percentage, as high percentage as, say, a more accurate gun would be at that range, they're not terrible, and those shots should still be taken. Of course, I'm trying to work in closer to my work. There's 3 of us, 2 of them. It's not over by any means, but they are in a bit of trouble. The Oho is on good hit points. I'm on okay hit points. I can't take a hit from both, but I can take a hit from one, unless I take an HE shot that pens from the 100Y. So he's sitting on this backside somewhere. I am concerned that the 122-44 is overwatch, so he may end up nuking me. And like I said, if I get hit by both, more than likely I go down. There he is. He's not looking at me. He's looking at the Oho, and we'll take him out. There's the 122-44. Again, long reload. Traditional medium would have had probably a shot in there on that guy, but I'm not reloaded, so I can't do it. I'll go ahead and push in on him. Don't want him to get away. I'd really rather not have him sit somewhere hidden in a bush poking away at me. So let's go get him. This is one of those situations when I push in, I'm not sure if he's going to be to the right or to the left of me. So I'm sort of swinging my view right and left. Where on earth is this guy? Who's going to see him first? Got to be right here. There he is. He's on the move, and you're going to see a snapshot. So it is possible with the 122 on that, the T-34-3. That was a fairly close shot, but that could have just as easily gone into the ground or right over that guy. Ended up with 5,000 damage, so you can see a couple examples of gameplay of the T-34-3. On both of them I worked as a pocket heavy, the first one quite a bit, the second one for a little while, and then I swung to a more traditional medium role reacting to the battle. So I hope this helps, hope this review helps. Good tank. It does require some care in using, but it can be quite effective. Catch you later.